I went to kindergarten, I flunked it the first day. And then they started a program at grant school that helped students like myself correct their speech problems. And that didn't work out very well either because it was sort of incorrigible. And then went on, and about the third grade, I would got into the third grade where I was working with other students, but I still had a speech problem. But then about then, a young lady started a little program at the Lyceum building. She came on with tape recorders for the first time. I mean, this was way back in the early 30s. And for the first time, I heard myself talk, where I could understand what I was saying. And within 6 months, I was working on the Duluth News Tribune as a reporter. I wasted almost half my lifetime there trying to correct my speech problem. And now I understand there's a little operation at birth where they do cut a little tube down there in your throat and you can talk normally. I wasted almost 3-4 years learning to talk. And this young lady corrected it in just a few weeks. And one of my first jobs was a reporter for the Duluth News Tribune. And there I would, occasionally I would write some nature columns for that, because I was very interested in nature. And then I was illustrating a lot of that stuff too for the paper. And from that point on, the Forest Service hired me. Then working with the Spirit National Forest, helping them out with some of their news articles and stuff like that. And from the newspaper, I got to work with the Spirit National Forest. And after about a year or so, I took a transfer to Alaska. In the meantime, I married Rosalie Calindo, who was an instructor at UMD, and got married, transferred to Alaska, adopted a couple of children, and then we were there for 6 or 7 years. And then later I transferred back to the States, where I worked with the Bureau of Land Management, doing the same type of work, but always the emphasis that is art and some writing, poetry. I'm big on poetry. Right out of high school, by that time my speech had returned after almost 15, 20 years. I joined the Marine Reserve out of the Duluth Marine Reserve unit, and we were called up during the Korean War. I wasn't involved in the war itself because of my speech impediment, but then when I got back, I was got involved in the more of an art program where I really got the fix on ceramic painting and then oil painting and things like that. And then my oldest brother-in-law was in the Navy. He was sending me oil paints. I didn't even know what they were. And I learned to draw by myself, and then I started to write poetry, which was rather terrible stuff to begin with. The tree. The tree has grown and settled in before my eyes. An inch here, an inch there. Doesn't sound like much, but when you multiply all the inches by 1,000 twigs and branches, and multiply again and again over all the years it takes to grow, you'll remember when, you know. The massive tree was a sapling you never thought would grow. This is a block of wood with a linoleum, type of linoleum you use almost on the floor, really, except it's cut to a degree. You mount it on a piece of board, and then you carve it with a knife. It's sort of the base is almost what you would use on a rug, linoleum rug. And then you carve it with a knife, and it's a progressive. You start with one thing, and then you go to another, like on soapstone, and then you put the linoleum block on, and then you did the ink with a ruler, and then you press it on the any kind of ink block. For the linoleum block, it's a beautiful medium to use, and you print, and you can keep printing. Oh, you can print a couple hundred pieces, and then when you roll it.
Are you going to do some more, do you think?
If I live long enough.
We'll print some more of those.
Definitely. And especially at the junior college, where they have a facility, they got the presses and they got the print and all that stuff. Makes it real convenient at the junior college, which is close by where we're living now. And it's a really, really neat way to work. The harbor pine. The harbor pine on an island off Grand Marais. How many years it has been there is anybody's guess. In every kind of weather, with every storm doing its best. It's clinging rich to rest from the rocks and the crags that hold it there. The pine is bent and bowed, but it has never let go. For about 20 years, when I was working with the Chugach National Forest in Alaska, I sort of bent my leanings in art and writing, poetry, stuff like that. That went on for several years, and published in about every newspaper in Alaska, which really isn't very much, because only half a dozen papers in Alaska at that time. I was about 2 years old. I had a speech problem. And we were walking up on Skyline Drive, a group of boys, ages from 5 to maybe 15 or so. As we were walking up Skyline Drive, a sparrow had flown out of the woods and landed on a wire. And somebody threw a rock at it, and the sparrow flew away. And someone in the little crowd of about 5 or 6 boys, ages maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, said, "It flew, it flew." And I heard that, and it occurred to me, I didn't quite understand what he was saying. He said, "If for who?" And that's the way I talked. And for the first time in my life, I heard someone speak the way I understood. And from that point on, every time I saw a bird, the word came back to my head, "Ifu." And then just about a year ago, 6 months ago, we were with friends driving on the same road, Skyline Drive, on 13th Avenue East. A raven had flown out, not a raven, a crow, had flown out of the woods, landed on a wire, right at the exact spot that sparrow flew, almost 90 years before. And someone said, "That's a bird." And I knew immediately that came back after 90 years, the same warrior, the same bird, except this was a raven, landed, and someone said, "That's a raven." And I knew, because I finally learned to speak, that it came back after a year, 9 years, 90 years. I learned to talk English. I found in a garage after we moved into our house in Duluth that after we came back from Alaska, and it sat there above the garage for a couple of years probably, until one day I was looking for something to work on in art. And I took this down, and I was encouraged to write a poem about it. And the poem is, "Old veterans never die, an ode to an old boat. Old veterans never die, and 'tis true. True, too, is that you don't need blood to bleed. Memories will do that, too. Memories of storms at sea, of the creaking of rocks, of gulls crying, of waves climbing, black clouds hovering, rain coming down in sheets, as rain will. Sleep well, old friends, you'll live in memory still." Soapstone we can find almost anywhere if you know just what to look for, and there are places where they even mine it. I don't know if there's any place right around Duluth or anything, but it's relatively soft, but it's not pillow soft. It's rock, but it'll take, you can cut it with a knife. It's very hard, and it polishes beautifully, as you can see. And I love to do it with birds and animals and things like that. And it comes in different colors, and that I prefer gray. And here at the college here in Duluth, we can use it on their kilns and fire it, and you get the beautiful polish on it.
Awesome. When did you start doing soapstone?
Oh, maybe about 20 years ago, when I first returned back to Duluth from Alaska, and then by accident I discovered the junior college here that was just beginning, and the art department had a kiln, and I thought, gee, I can do that, and that started me on working with soapstone, and it's a beautiful piece of art. When it's polished, and it takes a nice polish. This is a Chinese piece we picked up on a trip to China as part of a junior college invitation from the Chinese art department in China. And we had a whole month-long tour of their art department, in Fushan, China. And this is one of the samples of the Chinese art. It's incredibly small. It's the size of your thumbnail. And it's a jewel. And these little workers lined up in chairs, 50, 60 chairs long, and each one does a little piece in this type of stone and clay, whatever the medium is. And we were lucky enough to find some. And I took them home with us. And a friend of mine took these and hid them from me so I wouldn't lose them. And I got several of them now from China, and I salvaged them, and now they're prizes. And it's incredible art they have. This community of Fushan, China, they have 500 ceramic factories, and most of them are manned by women. Manned by women, that's a play on words. And they have those really small hands, and they make these beautiful, beautiful little carvings. One of the neat things about art, and particularly the material, this was a piece of wood I found in backyard alley. And I thought, gee, I could make something out of that. And what I did, I took it down to the school, ran it through the kiln down there, and made chickadees. And I needed a place to put my chickadees, and I found the perfect spot. An old beat-up piece of wood. It was covered with mud. Then all of a sudden, it's a piece of art. And that's a beautiful thing about art, It creates things. You can find it. And it's underfoot, all over the place, if you can just look for it. That's it. The fishing shack. One would have to be 70 or more to remember when fishing shacks lined the shore in an array of tar paper hues of reds and blacks and blues. It was a common sight to see at least 1, 2, or 3 shacks tucked away in a cove or bay or wherever a North Shore cliff fell away, to provide a landing or a stair for a dory or a load of fishing ware. You could see fishermen on the lake in gray and heavy weather, laying their nets without thought or fear that their demise was near. And it wasn't the weather or the stormy sea or lack of zeal that did them in. Mostly it was the lamprey's ill that was to bring a change to scheme of things. The fishermen, the dory, the shacks are gone now, and the cove and the bays are empty. And then it's a shame, for it was the end of an era, and there will never be the same. The neat thing about watercolor painting, it's handy. You got a piece of little water dripping down, add a little color to it, and all of a sudden, before you even know it, you got a bird. And you look a little deeper, you got a chickadee. Oh, chickadees. I'm a bird watcher from way back. From way back. And watercolor is just a beautiful example of medium. You got watercolors, you got tempera, you got oils and things like that. But in just a few minutes, you got yourself a chickadee at the end of the road. You won't find it pictured in any historical work or mentioned in some prestigious tome. It just isn't that kind of a thing. It really would be stretching just to call it a building at the end of the road. Built by a settler of straps, of planks and boards, parts of windows and a patchwork door, and whatever else was handy for a patchwork floor. Hens probably knew it, and probably a goose or two. A fox would have known it was there, and families of mice and shrews, and the fox would have known that too. In summer, wrens would have nested there. Now, time has worked its wonders, and it has become part of the forest, known only to a few. Buried in the hazel brush on a precipitous hill, it has become one with the spirits that linger still. And one of my scrapbooks here, I did it over. I got an award from the Marine Corps for the Marine Corps had a art contest for its members. The Marine Corps has a school for people with some sort of talent, and I guess they thought I had some kind of talent. And it was a correspondence class where I learned to write poetry in the Marine Corps in their different publications. And then I was out of the Corps pretty much by that time, but I have this one picture that was in the paper showing I won a third place award in an art contest in the entire Marine Corps back in 19, oh God, yeah, but it'd be in the early 50s, and I won a third place award in the Marine Corps for an art sketch, I think it was, but that's it. The title here is 3 Eats Hospice. I've never seen such a friendly bunch, even in this time of stress. Perhaps it's because I'm 72 and badly in need of rest. And they come, blondes, brunettes, and redheads too, with hugs and kisses and I love yous. Where, oh, where were they when I was 22?